Hi there, Alicia here again with my follow-up video on the County Infirmary in Noble County, Indiana. In my last video, I talked about how during a project in Noble County, my colleague Ryan and myself came across a historic marker. After some intensive research to find out more about that marker, we discovered where the location of the first county infirmary was, information about the building, the town of Mount Salem, and its inhabitants. Now, I know some of y'all are curious to know about the second infirmary I told you about in the previous video and what has become of it, so let's get started. So we know that the first infirmary was built in 1860 and was occupied up until 1872. We know this from the article that I read in the last video. And to summarize, it said, the land was deeded to Noble County in 1860 by the Fosters, and the county decided to use that land and its buildings as a poor farm. Once that facility became inadequate, the location was exchanged for 160 acres in York Township, about 1.5 miles northwest of Albion, and the official move took place on June 2nd, 1872. A little bit of research done back at the hotel that night revealed that the second infirmary was in fact still standing and had an address. So when we finished up our fieldwork that week, Ryan and I decided to do a little bit of exploring and go check it out. The second infirmary was open and in operation from June 2nd, 1872 until 1957. It also went on to become apartments after 1957. During its use, the property contained a main brick house, a hog house, a basement barn, a corn crib, a wood shop, and 2 small frame outbuildings. The 1874 Noble County Atlas has a wonderful drawing of what the infirmary may have looked like during that time frame. As you can see from the picture, land is being farmed and the barn is visible too. Now it's quite obvious that this picture and what the present day infirmary looks like are not exactly the same thing. But buildings can change over time. Things are added on and changed around and restored, but it definitely looks like it was a nice establishment in its early days. So who were the residents of the second infirmary of Noble County? Well, they were typically the mentally and physically disabled, unwed mothers, the elderly, orphan children, as well as families that were too poor to live independently. I found out some information about one of their short-term residents who went by the name of Big Steve. Big Steve was a longtime resident of Kendallville who once worked at Flint and Walling until he was injured and left unemployed. Big Steve lived in the Whitford Woods for a number of years in a covered wagon and enjoyed a life of isolation. However, in 1934, he broke his hip and had to spend some time in the hospital and then in the infirmary. But Big Steve wasn't happy about being there and decided to go back to his place in the woods. As the cold weather started to move in, he then returned to the county infirmary, but he only lived 9 days. He passed away on October 7th, 1937. As with Big Steve and other residents at the cemetery, when they passed away, they needed a place to be buried. So the infirmary established a cemetery for this need. The cemetery is located less than a mile northwest of the infirmary. It was established in 1888 and eventually Wright Cemetery was created and the two merged. If you were to visit the cemetery now, the county home portion is located on the far east side, with the newer, most recent burials in Wright Cemetery to the west. There are 2 paintings that can be found online of the infirmary and the barn. However, the comments that the viewers have left online is what caught my attention. 2 former residents of the infirmary, when it became apartments, found these paintings and left their marks in the comments. Ramona Hay commented, "I just wanted to let you know that I grew up in the Noble County Infirmary from 1972 to 1990. I was 6 to 7 years of age when we moved in, and the house has always been in my heart since I moved out. If you thought that the outside is cool, you should see the inside, and the fire escapes. When I was young, the adults would pour water down them in the winter so that it would freeze and you make it go faster. In the summer, we would go down on wax paper, and boy would we fly." And in 2011, a woman named Emily commented, "Grew up here as well. My mom and stepdad still live there and own the place. It's full of great history and a lot of fun memories. When I was little, 5 families lived there, which equaled lots of kids to play with and have fun with. Now it's just my family and some interns at the local animal rescue that stay there in the summer. Beautiful picture." So as you can see, this building has a great amount of history associated with the residents of Noble County since its existence. It has seen numerous amounts of people from all walks of life walk, play, and live within its walls. It's buildings like this one that gives us a different perspective on how people once lived who were too ill or too poor to make it on their own, and why county infirmaries were established to help those that were in need. If you'd like to find out more about Orbis, be sure to check out our website at orbisec.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram.